You have to keep stacking. And why do I always focus on stacking gold and silver? Well, because if you don't stack gold and silver, if you leave your hard-earned money or fiat currency in the bank, all it does is it strengthens the bankers. And the stronger the bankers are, the more mayhem and chaos they can create in the world. Monday, November 18th, 2024, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So are we on the cusp of another bankers' war? Yes, we had a big announcement yesterday from President Biden that he's going to allow Ukraine to strike Russia with U.S.-made long-range missiles. And we heard, of course, from President Putin earlier this year that it would be a declaration of war, a NATO declaration of war against Russia. And yeah, a lot of people might be thinking, well, that's the deep state trying to disrupt the transition to the new president. Yes, maybe so, but I'm going to recommend a book that was recommended to me by one of the viewers that I met in Zurich. And of course, I've just started reading it, but I can see it's a great book already that talks about hidden history, the secret origins of the First World War. So there you go. That's the book. Before we go into that and what's happening presently in 2024, just wanted to give a shout out to Miles Franklin, my precious metals affiliate in the United States. They've always got specials on. They will also talk to you and help you if it's the first time that you're buying gold and silver through them, or through anyone for that matter. You can email them info@milesfranklin.com and tell them that Mario or Maneco 64 sent you there. You can call them as well. Toll-free number 1-800-822-8080. There's also a long distance number, toll-free, that you can check out on their website, which I'm going to put below in the description. For my UK viewers, of course, I'm affiliated with Gold Investments, and all the details are below in the description as well. And there's some promo codes you can use to save a little bit when you buy gold and silver through them. And talking about gold and silver, is it any wonder that emerging market countries and even some European countries, like former Soviet bloc countries like Poland, are buying so much gold? I don't think so, because if there is a major war, some people would call it World War III. Yes, there's the old quote from Einstein, I think. He said if there would be a World War III, World War IV would be fought with sticks. I'm not too sure about that. I think it's much more complex than that. And yes, yesterday this announcement is pretty serious. We haven't really heard back from the Russians. And it's interesting that today and tomorrow there's a G20 summit in my hometown of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. That's where I grew up. Well, half my childhood I grew up there. Prior to that, I grew up across the bay from Rio. But yeah, interesting that they're conducting the G20 summit there. It's today and tomorrow. And I had a look here at the leaders that are attending. And it's interesting that for Russia, President Putin isn't attending, but his foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, is attending. And why is that? Well, because Putin is supposedly persona non grata, right? He's been well, there's an arrest warrant for him. But I think people, it's all theater. I mean, Xi Jinping was going to be there. President Biden is going to be there. But when there's a BRICS summit, Putin shows up. It's all an act for us, the public. These 20 guys and gals, they are the CEOs of the big plantations of the world. And they're just there for show. I think what really matters is the money. And the money, the banksters' money is in trouble. And Gerald Celente always says, when all else fails, they'll take you to war. And this book here, I'll just go through what it says here in the back. I mean, a lot of you might say, oh, it's conspiracy theory, but we've learned in the last few years, and I've known this for years, that you can't really trust the mainstream media. Can you trust academia and the historians that work for the cabal? I don't think so. It says here, the history of the First World War is a deliberately concocted lie. Not the sacrifice, the heroism, the horrendous waste of life, or the misery that followed. And I think that's important to point out, because yes, there is a lot of misery, sacrifice, and I'm not trying to downplay that. Unfortunately, they didn't know at the time. Our great-grandparents and grandparents didn't know what they're getting into. No, these were very real. But the truth of how it all began and how it was unnecessarily and deliberately prolonged beyond 1915 has been successfully covered up for a century. And it also says here, hidden history uniquely exposes those responsible for the First World War. It reveals how accounts of the war's origins have been deliberately falsified to conceal the guilt of the secret cabal of very rich and powerful men in London, responsible for one of the most heinous crimes perpetrated on humanity. For 10 years, they plotted the destruction of Germany as the first stage of their plan to take control of the world. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was no chance happening. It lit a fuse that had been carefully set through a chain of command stretching from Sarajevo through Belgrade and St. Petersburg to that cabal in London. Our understanding of these events have been firmly trapped in a web of falsehood and duplicity carefully constructed by the victors at Versailles in 1919 and maintained by compliant historians ever since. The official version is fatally flawed, warped by the volume of evidence that was destroyed or concealed from public view. Hidden history poses a tantalizing challenge. The authors ask only that you examine the evidence they lay before you. So there you go. Choose to believe what you want, but give them a chance. And I would say that in the present day, the big enemy, or I actually think there's two. It's Russia and China. Of course, they're starting out with Russia, and pretty soon it could be China. Back then, it was the German Empire. And the cabal, I think they're not only in London now, they're also in New York. It's the same kind of mentality. They believe, of course, that the West or the Anglo-American Empire or the special relationship should really be in charge of things. They should make the rules, right? It's a rules-based order, but it has to be their rules. And I don't think it's going to change under Trump. Nothing's going to change. You can see here this weekend, this article, which I talked about briefly in my live stream last night. It says Trump team aims to bankrupt Iran with new maximum pressure plan. So down this article here, it says Iran's crude oil exports have more than trebled in the past 4 years, from a low of 400,000 barrels a day in 2020 to more than 1.5 million barrels per day so far in 2024, with nearly all shipments going to China, according to the U.S. Energy Information Agency. So I'm sure China is looking at this and thinking, how can we circumvent this situation, because they're definitely going to put sanctions on Iran. They're going to sanction countries that deal with Iran, and China is the biggest trading partner, it seems to me, with Iran. And this is all part of what's going on in the background. And at the same time, of course, these leaders meet in Rio and they have nice food and wine. And yes, it's just the way it goes. And we, of course, the general public, are given a lot of stories. But I think it's the money that's the problem. They're behind the scenes, they're actually negotiating to see who has the real power. But I think the people who started World War I, in my opinion, they're pretty much the same mentality and the same people, really, that are trying to disrupt the world from going multipolar. They don't want that. Their power would be severely curtailed, the Anglo-American Empire. And Halford Mackinder, who was an academic who wrote about this, how the only way to control the world or run the world is to have control of Eurasia. But like Mark Faber said in Zurich earlier last week, in his fireside chat with Grant Williams, the U.S. State Department, they've been really they've done something that has never been able to be done before in history, and that's like put China and Russia in a friendly alliance. So yes, things are uncertain. What do you do? Are we going to have a World War III? Am I worried? No, nothing really scares me, really. Things will be what they need to be. That's why COVID didn't scare me. And nothing will, except fear, of course. And I'm taking a leaf out of FDR's book there, but not that I think he was a good president. But one thing he said that I agree with is that fear is the only thing we have to fear itself. So we just have to keep going with our lives. We have to keep stacking. And why do I always focus on stacking gold and silver? Well, because if you don't stack gold and silver, if you leave your hard-earned money or fiat currency in the bank, all it does is it strengthens the bankers. And the stronger the bankers are, the more mayhem and chaos they can create in the world. So, and I think what the Western bankers are worried about is this here, is that their source of financing is quickly evaporating. And why do I say that? Well, because bond yields, treasury yields, gilt yields are going through the roof because investors don't trust our leaders anymore. And you can see by this chart of gold versus a 10-year treasury note future that it's been pretty much a one-way street since the beginning of the century. Yes, from 2011 until recently there was a consolidation, but now it's taking off again. Yeah, the correction in gold has dented a little bit that rise, but things never go up in a straight line, and I think we're going to resume the move higher in gold versus bonds, and that's what they're concerned about. And this is what all these conflicts are about. It's for controlling the world, and you can only control the world when you control the currency and the money. Yeah, Lord Rothschild back in the 19th century said, "Give me control of the money, and I care not who makes the rules of a nation." But now it's graduated to the point that you want to control the money of the world because you want to rule the world. And I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think Trump is any different, because he still wants to punish other countries that challenge the dollar. And he said that, and it's not going to be, it hasn't been the same, any different with Biden or anyone else. So there you go. That's how I see the world today. Let's wait and see what the Russians say in response to this announcement from lame duck President Biden. Anyway, let's quickly look at where the markets are. This morning it's 8:34 a.m. London time. So we've got spot gold at $25.86. It's up $23 or just under 1%. The high's been $25.97, the low $25.61. Is gold going up because of these war drums? Maybe a little bit, or maybe just because it corrected so much already and it's starting to rebound. Who knows? All I know is that it's what I want to hold as much as possible. Of course, we still do need to have some fiat reserves for emergencies and for daily dealing in day-to-day transactions. What about silver? Well, silver is up 43 cents at 30.68, up 1.5%. High's been 75 and low 23. The Dow futures is down 80. The NASDAQ 100 futures up 135, or 0.2%. S&P 500 is up 8 points. What about the currencies? Well, the currencies are pretty steady. They haven't moved that much, especially the pound and the euro. The dollar has moved up slightly versus the yen here, 0.25%. The dollar's up slightly versus the yuan at 7.25, and the commodities market, crude oil, for example, is unchanged. So is WTI, and so is Brent. So not much going on there. Copper is up 0.2%. And what about the Treasury market? And I think we need to keep an eye on this market very closely, because we are at key levels, and I think 4.5% yield could be very important. Right now we're at 4.45, up about 2 basis points on the 10-year. So we're going to keep an eye on that. What about UK gilt yields? And I think unfortunately people are losing a lot of faith and confidence already in the new government. But of course, things could change with a war, right? When there's a war, people are always pushed to rally behind their governments. And I think that could be another reason why they're pushing for this. And I see that Starmer is going to meet Xi Jinping in Rio at a separate meeting, just the two of them. And I wonder if Xi Jinping is going to praise Starmer for his authoritarian crackdown on protesters. The 10-year gilt yield is up 5 basis points at 4.53. It's kind of holding there. I'm sure the powers that be at the Bank of England and His Majesty's Treasury are trying to keep that yield from rising. How do they do that? Well, they have something called the Exchange Equalization Fund that was created in 1932 after the UK left the gold standard to try to stabilize the currency, a currency that is based on just thin air, or faith and confidence. It's not based on anything real, like real money, right? So they need to manipulate it. But I don't think they'll succeed. And yeah, keep an eye on the bond market. I'm going to be doing it. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good start to the week and a great day. Take care. Bye.